Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, welcome. Today we're going to talk about good stuff. Yeehaw. I came across this quote that I'm going to share in a moment, and I thought it was somewhat profound, and the veil is being lifted. We're seeing all the bad, and I mean, honestly, I think most of the bad that we're seeing, it's been going on for, depending on what it is, decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, whatever. But it got incorporated into our lives little by little. It's like the story of the boiling frog. If you put a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. But if you put a frog in regular water and then slowly turn up the heat to a boil, it'll stay in there and boil to death. So now I don't know if that's true, and I'm not going to try it, but it makes the point. So, we've adapted to our freedoms being taken away. We've adapted to politicians lying to us. We've adapted to separation and loss of community in our societies and all these stuff. And, like I said, some of it's taken many years to adapt to. And now we're at that place where it's, things are getting very dysfunctional because of it. And we can't hide it any longer. We can't just pretend that, well, it's the way things are, no, it's highly dysfunctional, and it's starting to impact people's lives more on a daily basis. So therefore it's starting to gather people's attention. And this is how it is in a macrocosm, just like in a microcosm. I mean, you guys have heard me say, like, nobody hires a life coach because they're bored on a Tuesday. It's usually because of immense suffering and or reaching and trying to change and not quite having the different perspective to latch onto. Because we all have our own perspectives. And, like Einstein said, you can't fix a problem with the consciousness that created it. So sometimes we need some external help to help shift our perspectives to see things in other ways. Because if we've only seen things in the way we've seen things, how would we know another way to see things? Right? Like for me, it was through spiritual awakenings. But it happens different for everybody. And most people, it's more of a learned variety. You learn, and then you conceptually get it, and then you physically implement it. And most people change that way. And sometimes there are spiritual blast awakenings mixed in there too. But mine, like I kind of just shifted. I did like a 180 in 3 months. And then, it wasn't over there, but for the next couple of years, I had to learn to implement what I had awoken to, these new truths, these new ways of looking at life, and these new things that I was taught through spiritual texts, through, my mentor at the time. And then I continued taking in more knowledge and learning a vocabulary and stuff for, even more years. So for the first 5 years, it was a huge acclimation process. That's how I learned to see things differently. than I had before, because just like everybody else, I was conditioned for the first 35 years to look at life in another way. So I needed to learn how to look at life in a different way that I hadn't been conditioned to, and I think that is really a lot of our work. It's forgetting what we've been conditioned and opening up to our natural state of being and our new ways of looking at things. And I'll end this little section by saying that, we all have the truth within us. So like a lot of what I'm doing is reminding people of what they already know, what they forgot because of the conditioning, as opposed to teaching. This is why it resonates with people so deeply, like they feel it in their body a lot of times when I'm speaking, because it's a knowingness inside of them that is being reawakened, as opposed to an intellectual learning process. The truth is already within us. So that's that. So, so we have to learn new ways of looking at things, because, like I said, the veil is being lifted, and we're seeing all this dysfunction, and we're like, oh my God, like this is horrible. And it captures our attention, and the powers that be that are controlling and manipulating society and social realities to get what they want, to make more money, to make more power. The people who advertise, the people putting out commercials, they know how to manipulate you. The government knows how to manipulate you because they've been doing it for a long time and you didn't even know it. So like they're just piping in fear, controversy, because if you keep people scared and arguing with each other, then all of a sudden they can continue doing what they want. And they can also throw in a solution for us every once in a while. Go like, hey, I know you guys are freaking out. Let me save you. I'm your savior. I am your solution. I will fix this for you in some way, shape, or form. And then, everybody's so in fear that they get excited because somebody comes in and says they have a solution. Oh, great. Which makes us more dependent on them. So this is kind of the cycle that is going on. And, I think we discuss it quite a bit. I think most people are aware of it, and their awareness is growing and growing. All a good thing. It's good to be aware, right? But now I'll get into this quote. We can't let the fear consume us. We can't let the negativity consume us, right? Because our hope will go with it. If all we know is negativity and fear and problems, where's the hope come in? Right? Like little by little, just like the frog, we start losing hope. We start going, well, it's too big of a problem. We can't change it. That's what they want. They don't want us trying to change things. They don't want us standing in our power, because right now they have all the power. They're in control, but they're only in control as long as we forget our power. Like 1,000 people can't control 8 billion. They just can't. Like, I don't care how many guns and planes and bombs they have. Like, it doesn't matter. You can't, there's no benefit in them. So this is actually, I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but this is an interesting dynamic. So this is the mentality that Gandhi used. So like when the English were like, we took over your country. You have no control. You can't fight us. You have no military presence that's going to do anything to us. So you guys have no power. We have all the power. And Gandhi was like, no, you don't, because that's not how things work. The way things work is for you guys to have your power, you need to be in control. You need to be able to determine what the people under you do. And if you cannot control what the people under you do, then there's no sense in you being here. There's no sense in power. What's the use of power if you're disempowered? Like, oh, so you're standing there with all these guns and all these threats and everything saying, you have to do what we say. But then as soon as everybody stops and says, no, we're just not going to do what you say, and we put up with some of your backlash that comes initially, eventually you guys are just going to leave and we're going to have our freedom back. Because what's the point? Why pay a bunch of soldiers? Why build buildings? Why control a country that you can't make money off of, that you can't control its people? There's no benefit. So it's all about control. It's not about a military. We're not going to fight the US military and win. I mean, come on. You serious? Most countries on the planet couldn't do that. You think we're going to do that? Of course not. So like, that's not how we're going to win. We're going to win when we stand up and we just go, you have no power here. We're just not going to do what you say. Give us trillions of dollars in taxes while we flush it down the toilet and don't tell you where it's going. No. What are they going to do? Bomb their own people so then they don't have, I mean, they might try to scare us, but after that, why? So they have no people to control? What's the point? They have no people to make money off of? Of course not. So I didn't know I was going to talk about that either. Well, you guys know me. This is how it goes, right? So that's more than enough for the setup, right? So this quote that I came across, and I don't know who this is, Maimonides. I don't know. Like, I think wisdom comes from all kinds of different people in all kinds of different times. So I'm not really concerned about somebody's status, who the hell this is. But it's probably old because it starts with men frequently. Obviously, we know nowadays that it's men and women. But the quote actually says, men frequently think that the evils in the world are more numerous than the good things. Many sayings and songs of the nations dwell on this idea. Not only common people make this mistake, but even many who think they are wise. Okay, so this is, what I really want to talk about today. We have to make sure that with all this stuff going on, our attention isn't completely diverted. It's okay to be aware. Like, I live in the mountains of the Dominican Republic, man. I haven't watched the news in over 20 years. I know everything that's going on in the world. Well, not everything, of course. I know quite a bit. It's everywhere. Online conversations you hear, like anything. And if I find something that I think is interesting or captures my attention, I'll search it. And quite honestly, I think I get a better overview of what's going on that way than listening to somebody's spin on it on news. Like I'll look at a couple different things and read just the basics and be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Okay, I understand. Like, but we're so addicted to information. We think we need all this knowledge. We don't. Like, if there's a war going on, you can figure out what's going on in about 5 minutes. It's either about money or power, or they'll say it's about religion or competing narratives, whatever. It's it's just the same thing. It escalated to a war. Got it. So we don't need all the specifics of information. Running around killing people is wrong. So I think if there's a war going on, it should stop. I don't need to know the specifics to know that. Right? Doesn't matter why they're killing people. It's just killing people is wrong. So you shouldn't do that. And I don't really care who thinks they're right. I don't pick sides. So, I'm aware enough of what's going on in the world. And like I said, that it's okay, but we can't be inundated. I noticed this. I think I was getting this on a deeper and deeper level with COVID. I started realizing that some of the if you want, I want to phrase this properly. If you want to get some specific information about something going on, then talking to a specialist in that particular area can be helpful. Okay. But if you want to get a general picture of what's going on, going to a specialist is usually the worst place to go. And the reason is because they are succumbed to a very small section of reality. Like, they're not looking at it realistically. So I saw this with COVID, I was kind of monitoring the numbers, like in the US and globally, with COVID, just to kind of, because that's a general picture, right? So like, I don't want to breed in what the news is telling me or fear or anything. I just want the stats. What's the stats? Oh, 1% of the people have this. Okay, I can put that into perspective. And if I can't, then I go, well, what's 1%? Like, how many people die in car accidents, or how many people die by lightning strikes or getting bit by a snake? And then I can kind of compare those statistics and go, oh, okay, so this ranks in that area. Got it. And I have a general idea of what's transpiring, right? And now what I realized was, speaking with nurses and doctors, again, they're good with the specifics. If I need some sort of specific information because they've been trained in that area, well, then cool, those are my go-tos. But if I wanted a general consensus of what was happening on the planet, they were the worst people to go to. And they thought they were the best. This is, this is partly why I'm having doing this podcast, is because we think if we're immersed in something, then we have the best perspective, and we don't, because it isn't perspective. It's consumed vision, right? So people that are for their job every day, all day, they're in a hospital dealing with sick people that's and being labeled COVID. And then they have to have extra security measures to protect themselves from COVID. Like, if you do that, then, like, if that's your life, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, every day, like week after week, month after month, like that, that's what you're going to think is going on in the world, because it's all you're exposed to. And then, of course, you had everyone wearing masks. Now, I'm not saying that I have my own opinions, but I'm not saying that wearing a mask was good or bad. What I'm saying is, if most people are running around wearing masks, then it gives the impression that there's danger everywhere, right? And again, I'm not saying it was necessary or unnecessary. I'm just saying, on an unconscious psychological level, it gives you the idea that there's danger everywhere. Now, whether that's true or whether it's not is completely secondary. I'm just saying it gives you the perception of that, and some people think that there was danger everywhere. And some people don't think there was danger everywhere, whatever. But my point is it's like, it's more likely that you're going to think that there's danger everywhere if you see, caution signs everywhere, which were, on some unconscious level, masks were kind of like that, and lines drawn on the floor. And I understand that they had their purposes. I'm just saying, secondarily, they impacted us on an unconscious level. So that's just one example. We do this all the time, social media is largely negative, and it's increasingly negative. I mean, I've been on this spiritual path for over 20 years, and my social media feeds are very directed towards healthy perspectives as a general rule. Probably compared to most people's, my feeds are more positive. And mine has gotten dramatically more negative in the last year. Maybe the last 2 years, but especially the last year. So this negativity is increasing, and it's just not an accurate assessment of what's going on in the world. It's not there is way more good in the world. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I've talked about this road rage thing before. Like I'm from Massachusetts, so like road rage is like a birthright. So, I've had to deal with that on multiple levels, multiple times. So one of the times I was in Florida, and in a decent sized city where like you have, is it like 4 lanes? Not on a highway, just on a regular road, 4 lanes on each side. So you have, it's either 3 or 4. So you have like 3 or 4 lanes, so like 6 to 8 lanes wide. And that's just a regular road with businesses on the side, sometimes houses, all that stuff. So it's not a highway. It's, all that stuff. And like, so there's lots of cars, man. Lots of cars. And when I got irritated one day when somebody was driving, I was like, okay, well, if you're going to assess how people are driving, then you have to assess how everybody's driving, not just the one that you don't like, because that's an inaccurate assessment. You're not taking in the scope of everyone. You're just picking out one thing that you don't like and then assessing that. And so what I did is I was like, okay, I didn't like the way that guy was driving. And then I was like, okay, then what about the other cars? And I went, fine. Like, and I realized that 99% of the cars on the road were driving fine. And I picked the 1% to focus on. So then I get somewhere and I'm like, oh, it's a bunch of idiots on the road. How many times have we heard people say that? Oh, there's a bunch of idiots on the road. Really? There's a bunch of idiots on the road? What percentage? Probably 1%. If that. Most people are driving fine. We don't pay attention to the 99% that are driving fine. And then we wonder why our view is skewed. Right? So this is, this is what I'm talking about. There is good everywhere. It's just often more quiet. The negativity yells and screams and is noisy and loud, and it captures your attention. Oh my God, war, people dying. Oh my God, government stealing money. Oh my God, idiots running for president. Oh my God, like this, that, all this controversy going on, and it just pulls, and like I said, I mean, they're piping it into us. Specifically, like they control the information on the internet. That's not like a question anymore. We know that. So like they've admitted it. So they're controlling the information, and most of the information is negative. Well, that keeps us fearful. Now they'll put in enough positive where they can go, see, we give you guys positive stuff too. They'll give you huge negativity, and then they'll say, and on our lighter side, and then they might even pat themselves on the back. See, we wanted to bring some good into your life because it's not all bad out there. But what they did, and then you're like, hey, that's nice. Way to go, guys. See, the news isn't all bad. And you forget that they just pumped you with 90% of crap. And then threw you a little bone to make you feel better, so you didn't notice how much crap they just pumped into you. And you're like, oh, good. But on an unconscious level, this is what I'm talking about. On an unconscious level, this seeps in, man. This is how we function. This is how we see things. This is how we live. This is how we feel. This is what feeds our anxiety levels of constantly being stressed and fearful, because unconsciously it has an effect on us. This is why I minimize it as much as possible. So, one, minimize it as much as possible. But the other thing is, look around you. You know, what I just described of 90% bad, that's not because it's true. That's because people are piping it to you to try to control you. That's why. It's not because it's true. You know, how many days did you go, you know, like you hear about somebody dying young. It's like, that's a horrible thing, right? And we process that information and grieve and whatever we need to do to work through the emotions that causes, we do. But what about the other billions of people that didn't die? What about all the people driving those cars, just going about their life, trying to do the best they can? Like, when do we even think of that? When do we even, you know, like, you know, so here's an exercise, like, just go around and just, you know, maybe keep it general. Just like try to, you could probably do this in 30 seconds. Like my car driving thing, I don't even think it lasted 30 seconds before the message became abundantly clear. So you could do this for 30 seconds or try to do it a whole day just to really hammer it home if you could. But just walk around for a while and just notice people who aren't doing anything stupid. That's it. Just just normal people. If somebody's walking to their car from a grocery store, oh, look, they're bringing their groceries to the car. I do that sometimes. Probably just a good person bringing their groceries to the car. You know, like we're scared to get to know our neighbors because of this. You know, that's one thing I like about the DR. It's like in Florida, I lived at this place for 2 years. I think I met 2 people. Over here in the DR, I came to visit for 2 months and I met like 17 people. And I mean, really met them, where I had meaningful conversations, and many of them I spent time with after. We even made plans and got together and became friends and did things. Like it's amazing because there's a sense of community over here. It's not all alienated and individualized. So, like, which reminds me of this stuff. I love living in this atmosphere. That's one of the reasons why. It reminds me, oh yeah, like I'm not separate. I'm part of a community. This is nice. Look, they're trying to do the best that they can. Yeah. Look, somebody's walking up the street, maybe going to get some food. Maybe going to work. Who knows? But it's just normal people living their lives, doing the best they can. And we are surrounded by it. We are inundated. It's just what happens is we don't put any attention to it, and it becomes trying to explain water to a fish. You know, like if you went to a fish and you were like, "Hey, how's the water today?" The fish would be like, "What do you mean? What water? What water? What's water?" It's like, well, you're in it. Like it's your whole environment. Like what do you mean by environment? Like what's water? I don't even understand what you're talking about. You breathe it. What? Breathe it. I just breathe, man. Like I don't know what you're talking about with this water. That's how we are. And this is what I want to do is have us slow down and look and realize this. 90% of the people, or, you know, I'm just throwing statistics out there, but a gigantically large percentage of the people are just doing the best they can. They want to be happy. They want to be able to pay their bills. They want to be able to feed their children, keep a roof over their head, and have maybe go on a vacation regularly. Like they don't want to fight. They don't want to struggle. They don't want controversy. They're just trying to live their lives, just like you. Notice that, man. Notice that, you know, when somebody holds a door for somebody, that's an act of kindness. we're all just walking each other home, man. It's like I think it behooves us to disconnect from the negativity and start paying attention to the positivity around and the good things that are around and putting things into perspective. That's what's going to breed our hope. And through hope comes empowerment. Like, I really I kind of follow, how do I phrase this? I follow the energy. Like it's not difficult to understand things or how things work. Like I was talking about Gandhi. It's like he understood the dynamics. This is what I understand. I understand dynamics. So like I understand, if you understand dynamics, you can understand why things happen. So like Gandhi understood dynamics. So he understood that if you can't control, if a government can't control its people, then there's going to be no benefit for the government, and they'll just walk out on their own. Like that's a dynamic. You understand how and why things work. This is what I did all through school. I figured out the systems. I understood the dynamics of the systems. I was like, oh, okay. So like if I get into trouble and do something that the school doesn't want me to do, I get sent home for 3 days. Yes, I was blessed enough to not have in-school suspension when I was there. So I get sent home for 3 days, and everybody says that's bad. You got suspended. Oh, this is horrible. People are going to view you as a troublemaker, and you're going to get in trouble at home and all this stuff. And once I just wasn't scared of the consequences and what other people labeled on it. And I just went like, what if I just look at getting suspended as having 3 days off of school where I don't really want to be anyway? Oh, well, that changes everything, and it opened up my world to a whole new set of possibilities. So, so I use the system for me because I just didn't believe the construct that they told me. Oh, getting suspended is bad. You sure as heck don't want to get suspended. I'm like, why? I get to go home for 3 days. It sounds like fun, like I like getting suspended. So then I would manipulate the situation, and I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna take some time off of school. And the principal's like, it doesn't work that way. I'm like, yeah, it kind of does. I could just go spray the fire extinguisher up and down the hall, and then you can suspend me, or you can just suspend me and we can forego the formality of me doing something wrong. And first he was shocked, but once he realized I was serious, I got some time off of school. It worked. So understanding the dynamics of things is important. So because you understand the motives and how things work. What's the motive? How do things unfold? So if we as the people stop, we can be aware of the negativity going on and the control and all that stuff, but that we can't let it consume us, because that doesn't have hope in it, like I was explaining earlier. So what has hope in it is goodness, love, faith in our fellow human being, the reality that most people are really good people on this planet, and it's a very small percentage that aren't. And there's a very small percentage that are trying to control us. And there's a very small percentage that are in power and controlling what's happening. And it doesn't have to be that way, because we're the overwhelming majority of people are just normal people doing the best they can, trying to live a decent life. That's it. So if we start disconnecting from the negativity and feeding that and going like, oh, wow, look, look at all these people in the grocery store. They're buying food for their families, just like I'm buying food for my family. I guess we're more alike than we are different. Do you think they're mashing up the potatoes and pouring arsenic in it to try to kill their loved one? No, they're not. Of course not. There's one person doing it somewhere, but the other 8 billion aren't. Right? So, disconnect from these stories that we hear, and we're like, oh my God, people are doing that. It's insane. What's this world coming to? It's not going anywhere. It's just, you didn't hear about it before. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you just didn't hear about what was going on. There was knuckleheads back then doing something stupid. The world didn't get worse. We just gained more information access. Most of the people are good. And so just start acknowledging it. That's all. This is why I like doing gratitude lists, because it's not just about, making a gratitude list every evening, like to 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for each day. It's not just about that moment of writing down gratitude, what you're grateful for. That's good too. You can feel the feelings of gratitude. You're taking time to acknowledge it. You get benefits right then. But one of the benefits that people don't realize is that it changes the way you look at life, because all day, you got to write some stuff down, and it can't be the same thing as you wrote down yesterday. So you have to start looking around all day. So when you sit down at night, it trains your brain to look for good things, because when you sit down at night and in the beginning, you sit down, you're like, I don't know what I can write for gratitude. I don't know. So you can't think of anything sometimes in the beginning, right? So what does that do? It trains your brain to start looking for things throughout the day. So throughout the day, when something happens that you can be grateful for, you go, ooh. So, this is, I didn't know I was going to mention this, but a gratitude list is a great way to accomplish what I'm talking about, because the good is often quiet. It doesn't capture our attention like the bad does, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. All those people going to work that are causing the traffic, we go, oh my God, this traffic sucks. Yeah, but those are a bunch of responsible people trying to take care of their families. That's the reality. They're not all going to work because they're for any negative reason. They're going to work for a positive reason, to try to make money, to try to take care of their families because they love them. How often do you think of that when you're sitting in traffic? Wow, all these people are out doing things to try to better their life for their families. Wow, they're going to get groceries. They're getting gas so they can go get groceries. They're going to work so they can make money, so they can get gas, so they can go get groceries. I don't know why I'm not locked onto the groceries, but when you watch a sporting event, I don't even know how many people they fit into those stadiums, but look at those stadiums with all those people, just trying to enjoy something. That's why they're there. Now, I'm not saying all of them are good at it, a lot of people are into the negative. So instead of actually enjoying a sporting event, they get pissed off the whole time because, they're Monday morning quarterbacking the whole time, whatever. But my point is their intention. So this is a good point. Even if people aren't doing it well, their intentions are good. Even if somebody's really negative about a sporting event, their intention is good. They would like to see their team doing well. Maybe the fact that they're not doing well is frustrating, or maybe the fact that the ref blew a call or whatever. Maybe an aspect is frustrating, but really they're there to support their team or to enjoy watching a game or a match or something. Look, this is all we do. Everything we do, all these billions of people on the planet constantly on a daily basis doing something with good intentions. Maybe in an airport, people are flying all over the world. Why? To go on vacation, to enjoy a different place, or to go visit a loved one. I just got back from going over to Maine, in the US. And it was wonderful because I haven't been to Maine. Like, I grew up in Massachusetts. Most of my family is living in Maine now. And Florida too, sometimes snowbirding, so like I'll usually visit Florida because I lived there for a couple of years before I moved to the DR, and then I'm in the DR and Florida is right there. So, and I don't like the cold. So like usually I'm going to Florida. Well, this time I went up to Maine, and it's probably, I don't know, 6-7 years or something, I bet, since I've been up there. And it was great, man. I got to spend time with my parents, just me and my parents and my brother-in-law at some point. And it was really nice, just spending that one-on-one time with them, and just nothing special to do, just spend time, just be with them and communicate and talk and just be, it was wonderful. And wolf down some Maine lobster, man, which was delicious. So, that was nice. And then my sister and I went to a celebration of life for my friend that passed recently. And she's connected with that family too. There was 7 siblings. So she was good friends with one of her sisters, and, and I knew the whole family, and I think she did too. So we went down and had this celebration of life, and we felt things, like it wasn't all, that they showed all these pictures and the emotions came up, and like, if you don't resist the emotions, that's part of being alive. They needed to come up and they needed to come out, and it, it was because I loved my friend, and it felt good to feel those feelings in celebration of him and who he was. It was beautiful, man. And connecting with all his family, oh my God. And like, to me, it was very special because, like, I know that family, and I know they're good people, and I know that I love them, but like, I haven't seen most of them or talked to most of them in 35 years, so to be back there in his honor, and just to reconnect with them and to share the love, and it was just wonderful, so like that's what I was doing when I was in the airport. And if I was standing in front of somebody trying to get my bag in the overhead, they were probably like, I wish this jackass would get out of my way. But if they slowed down to look, it's, and that's just my little story. Like, the whole airport's filled with people like that, going on vacation or going to visit family, or maybe going to take care of a loved one that's sick, or reconnecting with their family or friends, or who knows, but they're living their lives. They're just good people trying to live their lives. It's everywhere. The good is everywhere. So we can't let it become like water and just not see it and get consumed with the darkness, because then we start thinking that that's all there is. And it's not. The good is everywhere. It's all around us all the time, so much so that it's our environment. Good is literally our environment. It's everywhere. We're just not accustomed to tuning into it perspective-wise. There is so much good around us all the time that we dismiss it. We don't even pay attention to it anymore because it's nothing new. It's everywhere. It's all over the place. Let's reverse that. Like, I think when we remind ourselves all this good, all the good that's going on in the world, and all the good that's around us on a daily basis, and then all of a sudden we look at the bad, the spots of bad throughout, we can go, well, maybe we should fix that. Maybe we should do something different so that isn't here. Because I mean, we've got all this good. Like, why have that little piece of bad? Maybe we can eradicate that. Maybe we can get rid of that. You know, this is how the mind starts thinking. This is why, like, I think that if we do this, this could be a big part of us literally changing the world. Because, like I said, I follow like dynamics. So if you are hopeful, then you have energy. Like, you know, just I've done this before with other things, but pay attention to my energy, the tone of my voice, my energy, everything. So I'm talking about how the and I'll exaggerate it to make my point. You know, the government is just ripping us off, and the taxes, and they haven't filed a budget in freaking 6 years to let us even know what they're doing with our own money, and they just keep taking more of it, and there's this control. Like, my voice is getting deeper. My energy is getting irritated. I'm kind of getting consumed with the negativity of what I'm saying, right? And that's like the energy level is low. It's like, oh, I don't like this. Oh, this is bad. Oh no. Oh no. Like, and then, you know, talk about, and you can probably listen back to this podcast and you can hear my voice when I'm doing this naturally, when I wasn't trying to do it to make a point. Ooh, I don't know if you guys heard that big old rooster right outside my window. So yeah, maybe you can hear it when I wasn't specifically trying to make this point in my voice. But when you start talking about hope, like, all of a sudden your energy goes up. Like, oh, you know, there's good everywhere. The people are just trying to do their best and live their best life. Like, the tone of my voice goes up, my energy goes up. Like, this is where action comes from. You know, I mean, sometimes action can be driven by anger, of course, but it's not the healthiest way, right? It's, if you have the option, it's better to take action out of enthusiasm and hope than it is to take it out of anger. So, like, if we can start, you know, oh, there's so much good. There's so much good. Why have these little bits of bad? Let's eradicate those. Let's because we are empowered. We know we're capable of living in a good life. The bad gets worse when we feel inundated by it, where it's too much and it's everywhere. It's all we see. And this is, you know, really, I mean, if you listen to people talk, this is how most people feel right now. They're like, oh, there's so much bad in the world. It's everywhere. And they're feeling hopeless and unenergetic. This is why we're not leaning into change as much as we could be. I think we're starting to, but we need to lean into change even more. But we need to be hopeful that change is possible. And if all you see are problems, then you don't think change is possible. So therefore, why take any action? So that leads to the lowest levels of energy, which is depression, non-movement, hopelessness. That's the danger zone. You know, that's when really bad things happen. That's the lowest vibration there is. Hopelessness, non-movement. It goes completely against nature. We are not supposed to try to stay still. Everything is constantly moving. Everything is constantly changing here on Earth. So, like, that is like 100% against nature when we're just depressed and not moving. So the opposite end of that is hope. And when you see good all around you and say, wait, we can live in a good world. There's good all over us, all around us. As most people are good, and most things that are happening are good. So much so, there's so much good happening that like, I got hypnotized and stopped even noticing it. Oh my God, it's everywhere. There's good everywhere. Even animals, you know, like you just said, there's a rooster out there. You know, there's a bunch of chickens on the property right now. So, like, you know, and the babies are being born everywhere, and you see the mom and teaching the chicks how to dig in dirt and find some food, and they're just following them all around, and that's good. There's a barn there. It's beautiful. It's love. The grass is growing. The trees are growing. The flowers are blossoming. Good, good, good. It's good everywhere. So start taking it in. Maybe keep that gratitude list, but make that your dominant vibration. Start getting overwhelmed with all the good that's around you on a daily basis. And then see what happens to your life. See what happens to your mood. And as we start doing that collectively, and we see something that doesn't fit, because that's what the bad is. The bad is just stuff that doesn't fit in a good world. That's why it captures our attention, because the good is literally our environment. We're just surrounded by it. It's like air. It's everywhere. Good is everywhere all the time. And we got so used to it, we don't look at it. And then all of a sudden we see something bad and we're like, look at that. And it captures our attention. Let's start reversing that. Good everywhere. Look, yeah, something bad's happening. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Okay. And as we start adjusting, our perspectives and being realistic, because that's really what it is. It's realistic. Like, you can't tell me that negativity is being realistic, which a lot of people, a lot of people will say that. Oh, you're just burying your head in the sand. Really? I'm burying my head in the sand. So, like, if I don't acknowledge the bad, I can acknowledge it. I acknowledge the bad all the time. I know it's out there. I'm not burying my head in the sand. I'm just saying that there's 90% good going on. How come you're not acknowledging all the good? That's burying your head in the sand. It's burying your head in the sand means that you're not looking at what's all around you. It doesn't mean that you're not looking at the bad that's all around you or the good that's all around you. You have to apply it to both things. So these negative people that think like, it's bad everywhere. No, that's you're actually, that's a lie. You're literally lying to yourself. You're burying your head in the sand, refusing to look at any good, and then pretending everything's all bad. And then you're telling me if I don't think the same way, then I'm delusional, and I'm not. You're delusional. Like, there's literally good everywhere, and you refuse to see it. This is how we're living as a society. We have to start changing that, in my opinion. All right. So that's it, peeps. Go see the good. See the good. Make lists, man. It not because you need a list, but because it's going to train your mind to look for it. A gratitude list or a good list. I've just created a new thing. It's called a good list. You have to list 5 or 10 things every day that are good, and you can't repeat. So if you can't repeat, maybe 5. And it'll train your brain to look for this stuff. So look for the good, peeps. It's your environment. It's your atmosphere. It's everywhere. Take it in, appreciate it. And just by taking it in and acknowledging it, what you're going to do is shift your perspective a little at a time, and shift your energy too, because I'm telling you, it's going to change everything, because that's the dynamic of how things are. It's not. I think sometimes when I say I understand dynamics, people think it's like some complicated thing or something. Now granted, maybe my mind can pick it out a little bit easier, but. And I've practiced it and gotten better at it. But like, if you are looking at the negative all the time, right? And all you're seeing is the problems and all this stuff, your energy drops. You don't have a lot of hope for things to be good because all you see is bad. That's just how it is. That's what happens. That's the dynamic. If you look at the bad all the time, you get depressed. And you don't think anything can change because all you see is bad. If you look at the good, then you know that good is possible. And your energy goes up. And then you might want to, there's a little spot of bad. Maybe we can just do something to help that. Why? Because everything's good. Why not? Like we can do that. We can make things better. Everything's almost, like 90% of the world is awesome as it is already. Like why can't we fix a little 10%? Of course we can. You have hope. Why? Because you see good everywhere. So why would you think that good isn't possible? When you see negativity everywhere, you don't think good is possible because all you see is negativity. That's the dynamic, right? It's not complicated. It's just if you look for good, you're going to start seeing good, and you're going to start believing in good. And if you acknowledge the good, you start getting more hopeful that there's more good. It's just energy. Whatever you feed expands. Right now, we've been feeding negativity. So guess what's expanding? Negativity. It's all most people see. Let's start feeding positivity. Let's start feeding what's actually good in the world, which is 90% of it. Just acknowledge what's already there. You don't have to make it up. It's all there waiting for you to acknowledge it. So just start acknowledging it and see what happens to you inside. And that's reward enough. Now, if other people start doing it too, we'll change the world. But you can't control that. So don't worry about other people. Oh, well, geez, Glenn, that's a wonderful thing. I wish more people thought like you. Don't waste your energy wishing that most people think like I think. People think that that's a compliment when they say that. And I think that they're just missing the point. No, do it. You do it. You do it. Don't wish that other people were doing it. That is useless. It does nothing. You do it. And if other people do it too, cool. If they don't, that's fine. You live a happier life all by yourself. You get the rewards. Don't worry about what other people aren't doing. You do it. And then when you're doing it and you're happier, some of the people around you might be like, geez, they seem pretty happy a lot lately. Hey, what are you doing? Happiness spreads. Positivity spreads. Why? Because it feels good. Everybody wants to feel good. So just be an example of it. You don't have to fix everybody. Just take care of yourself. And then your light will shine, and then other people will be attracted to it. A lighthouse I was just in Maine. A lighthouse doesn't run up and down the coast looking for ships. It just sits there and shines, and people come, so they see it. That's how we are. We need to just shine our light, and people will come to us. It's okay. All right. That's going to do it. Thanks for listening, everybody. I will talk with you soon. Peace.